Superheroes make everything okay. All right, we are the Armchair Superheroes, back again. I'm Pat Lane, as always. Josh is out today, so we're going to have some people flown in. My co-host for the night is Sean Coleman. He is here. Thank you, Sean, for joining us. Appreciate you.
Howdy. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. And we're going to have some people in and out, and so we'll see how big the room gets. Of course, we do record live on Locker Room every week, but right now on stage with us, we also have Max Millington. Max, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. We're starting things off a little bit differently today because we're doing it a little bit differently today. So as you probably saw from the title, we are doing the MCU Consensus Rankings. So what I did is I sent out the bat signal. I know it's the wrong universe, but, you get the idea. I sent out the bat signal and said, hey, anyone that wants to give me rankings for the MCU movies 1 to 23, rank them. So I got 29 rankings in, including my own, including Sean's, including Max's, including other people that are listening, Julianne, who's listening too. I got a bunch of rankings from people, and all I did was I gave them a 1 to 23. So if whatever you had as your number 1 got 1 point, whatever you had as your number 23 got 23 points. And then I tallied them all up. I divided by 29, and I just ranked them from the lowest score to the highest score. And so we'll talk about how some of them are like really close. And so, some of them are off. Literally, we had 29 rankings, and there are some that are like 2 or 3 points away from each other. They were that close. So it's pretty interesting. So anyways, we're gonna kind of get right into it because this is a fun topic. And again, we are going to then get into some specific rankings of people and kind of break down how things happen. But number 1 on the list, no surprise to anyone, this movie, and this is the thing, we did 29 rankings. It was the only movie under 100 total points out of 29 rankings. The only movie under 100. Matter of fact, second was 140. This one came in at 83 total points for an average of 2.86, and that was Avengers Infinity War. Really no surprise, but was, number 1 on a majority of the rankings. And the biggest thing with this is that even when the ones where it wasn't number 1, it was still high, right? No one had this below like 10 or 11. Nobody. And that was really why, this score is so low and finishes number 1 on the consensus rankings.
No, yeah. And, the reason why is because it had the one narrative, the one theme to it that really no other movie had. And that was the buildup for a big bad that you had seen for nearly 7 years in Thanos. And, it's not only the fact that it was a buildup for 7 years for Thanos. You saw him briefly in Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously at the end credits of Avengers. But it's also the fact that, it's a movie that was basically introducing him. And, for several people that I know, the movies are defined by the villains that are in them. And so it was the build-up for 7 years. It was obviously the overall storylines that you saw, so on and so forth. But that was the big reason why. That's what sets it apart, in my opinion, is it finally revealed the reason why all of these things were happening, and that was to face off against Thanos. And this is the movie that featured him the most. So that's why, in my opinion, it's consistently up there. And just how well they did also putting everybody together in one movie. So just so many narratives, so many loose ends tied, but the main thing was that it featured.
Yeah, I'll chime in real quick too, and I'll say that I think also just like the fact that it gave us, like Sean said, so many different storylines in one, but also I think for some people, and we'll probably get into it later, I think the heartbreak at the end of Infinity War was probably more memorable and satisfying and memeable on social media than even the ending of Endgame. And Infinity War is just all around a great movie. Villain, yeah, Josh Brolin, Thanos, the writing, the acting, everything was knocked out of the park. But I have no issue with Infinity War being number 1.
Yeah, the thing about Infinity War, and Sean mentioned, and Max did too, like, there's a million things going on, right? There's like 5 or 6 different storylines that are happening at the same time, and yet it doesn't feel crammed together. It doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel the pace of it is pretty solid the whole way through. And there's really not a bad scene in Infinity War where I'm like, that scene sucks. I can just skip to the next scene. Like, there isn't one in Infinity War. And I just feel like to me at least, it's unquestionably the best movie. Now, again, if you don't think that way, that's okay. But like, I feel like nobody's going to have a problem if you have Infinity War as your number one movie overall in your ranking. So that's what we got. Number 1, Infinity War. Number 2, second on the list, little surprising, although maybe not, with 140 total points at an average of 4.83 is Avengers Endgame. And so this was a little surprising to me. A lot of people had this really high in their rankings. I have 5 in mine, and we'll talk about, our personal rankings in a minute, or at the end, I guess. But, a lot of people had this number 1, a lot of people in the top 5. And again, another one with this is that no one has this outside the top 15 or so, right? And that's kind of the big thing where you see these top end movies, nobody has it below 10 or 15, and that's really the key. Where I don't think it's as good of a movie as Infinity War. Again, I have some of these movies below it ranked a little bit higher than it, but again, what they did, the way they finished it off, and listen, when I was in the movie theater the first time I saw it, the first 45 minutes of the movie was awful. It dragged and dragged, and I was just like, just get me there. But I've watched this movie. It's a 3-hour movie. I've watched this movie front to back probably more than any other MCU movie because it's just so satisfying and they do so many different things and I enjoy so many different parts of it. So for all its warts and for reasons why if you had it at 10, I wouldn't begrudge you if you had it at 10. I'd have no problem with that. But I think that there's a really good rationale and a solid argument for having it number 2, which is where it ends up on our consensus rankings.
Yeah, I think it goes 20 minutes too long. I do think that some of the start of it is a bit slow. You've got, I don't know if convoluted is the right word, but some of the stuff is not that easy to understand unless you go back and watch it a few times. But the ending of it is just absolutely phenomenal. Like it's the best ending of the entire universe, and obviously it is. But when I say ending, the portal scene, which we all know, we've all seen multiple times, that's what does it for me. There is not a scene in cinematic history that I feel react to like I did to that one because of how awesome it was. And so that's what carries it for me. Even if there are some better, actually more quality movies over the next few movies that we're going to talk about, the portal scene carries this one for me. That's how awesome.
Yeah, I wonder if, this is, I'm 25 years old, so obviously the youngest among Pat and Sean and probably some folks listening tonight. But like, when I saw that scene, I kind of went back and I said, man, I wonder, and I just watched Endgame over again not too long, a few days ago, but I was thinking, man, I wonder if that scene hits for me the way that like, in The Empire Strikes Back, like the I am your father Darth Vader scene hit for folks back then because I known about it growing up and then I finally like watched the movie when I was older, but like for so many people that was such an iconic moment in the Star Wars franchise, and that was talked about. So I the portal scene is something that I go back and I think about. I'm like, oh man, like I wonder if like this is what people were feeling then, because it's hard to recapture that if you didn't experience it, right? If you're just watching it at home, like you'll never know what it was like to sit in the theater and watch that scene and so many others from that movie. So yeah, I mean the parts of it still touched me even watching it now. I had it a little bit lower in my rankings, and we can get into that a little bit later. But that the impact of the ending and the final, sort of couple scenes is still hits to this day.
I'll tell you what, man, I cry every time I watch it. Every single time. Every time I cry, every time I watch it. There's so many scenes. The scene where he comes back, where Scott comes back and he's hugging his daughter, like that scene is so emotional. They have such great chemistry together anyways. They've always had that. And I know now it's obviously a different kid, but even still, it's that same type of chemistry going on. And, yeah, that portal scene, that ending scene's unbelievable. And I would even lump in the 3-on-1 fight before that when Cap gets Mjolnir and it and the door's like, I knew it, like it's just there's so many scenes. And one thing that someone pointed out to me afterwards, which I thought was amazing, and of course now, who knows, right, if this is true or not, but like somebody was saying, what if now, back at the beginning of Ultron, right, when they're all trying to, at the party, they're all trying to pick up Mjolnir, right? And what if, because it does move a little bit with Cap, right? What if Cap goes to pick it up and realizes that he can at that moment? Like, at that moment, knows that he can pick it up and is like, oh, shoot, I better not, because, like, I don't want to show up Thor. You know what I mean? Like, what if he's like, oh, my God, like, I can do this, and is like, no, I better not, and puts it down. Like, that just, and so there's so many layers to that movie. And again, Max, what you said is so perfect, because there are not many instances like that in movie history where something happens where everyone watching it is just like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened, right? And The Empire Strikes Back is certainly one of those things, right? And half of the Avengers dusting away is another one, and the portal scene is absolutely another one. I mean, you just sit there like, I can't believe this is happening right now. And that was what a moment. And again, like you said, maybe that does bring it into the top two simply for that, So, anyways, that was Juliana apparently told me that. Thanks, Juliana. A little shout out for you. Appreciate you. All right, so third on the list with 170 total points and an average of 5.86 is Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Third on the list. I think one of the best movies. This is my, I think, fourth overall. I loved it. It's like a spy thriller. It's kind of has a little bit of a different feel of an MCU movie, but this movie just absolutely crushes it. Love this one.
Yeah, no, and it follows. This is where the superhero theme, or just the overall idea, the whole idea behind the movie is superhero. This kind of went away from that a bit to actually having some added narrative, added, pizzazz to it, as, with an actual type of plot. It felt like that this could be one of the best, chances of a Marvel movie being, considered for an Oscar or something like that, because the plot was so well done. It was kind of like a spy thriller, things like that. Like if you're separating these movies from the overarching storylines, this one would stand out as one of the best quality ones. So I agree. I think that it's a bit of an escape from the traditional setup and format of a Marvel movie, and that's what makes it good. It's a very good spy movie, government movie, whatever you want to call it. But the ending in it is so well done, also. So I thought it was phenomenal. And at the end of the day, you also have, in my opinion, probably the first example of a redemption side of things for good reason as well with the Winter Soldier. So I think that it was just extremely well done on so many different narratives, and Robert Redford was perfect. As
Yeah, I don't have so much more to add. Winter Soldier, I that was a weird one for me because it took me a while. I don't know like what was going on in my life, but it took me a while to like watch that one. So I kind of had seen it in bits and pieces, and then finally watched it, a couple times, again. So yeah, I mean, great story for sure. I don't connect to that one as deeply as most people do for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of how late I saw it, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people have it up there, and I don't really see issue with it being. Well, no, yeah, with it being third, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and so this is where it kind of starts to tail off, and we'll talk about this because the